games in India and ASEAN. We are just assembling a team here, and we've been supporting a lot of people across industry in virtual production, in gaming, etc. And it's a great pleasure to bring you this presentation by Sallyann Houghton from our London lab team. And the lab is a very exciting experimental place where we're looking how to push the technology and push Unreal game platform to support media entertainment. So Sallyann, welcome, and looking forward to hearing your talk.
Thank you. Hello everyone. Nice to meet you all virtually. So as Quentin said, my name is Sallyann Houghton, and I am part of the team at the Epic Games London Innovation Lab. And we work predominantly within the media and entertainment industry, but that also includes arts, fashion, broadcast, obviously TV and film, but basically any creative content. And our main objective here is to help people with their real-time endeavors. And that sometimes is just sharing the power of real time and helping people begin their journey with education and hands-on experiences. And sometimes it can be about developing more robust pipelines and helping people take their real-time creative ideas to the next level, and everything in between. So we're here today because one way or another, we all have a passion for storytelling and bringing it to life through production. So please allow me to begin with a super quick background on me to give you a little bit of context of why I'm here. I started my days at Grey Worldwide, an advertising agency here in London, as a TV producer. And I traveled the world in search of low-cost centers to shoot commercials. And then when I thought I knew everything there was to know about TV advertising, I naively set up a production company, which shows the arrogance of youth, because it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But we did okay, and I learned a lot on the job and developed an understanding of how to really shoot a film. And then I went on for global domination and headed out to New York to join the amazing team at The Mill and set up a beauty luxury content division there. And at the time, most of the big luxury brands really only seemed interested in the shiny new object that was tech and innovation, which at the time was predominantly AR and VR, which was great because I was a secret nerd and I loved the challenge of taking all of my experience and know-how of 2D content creation into a 3D world. And then after 8 years, I returned from the Big Apple to the motherland, and I had the absolute fortune to join the Epic Games team and most importantly, launch the London Innovation Lab. So the purpose of the talk today is to give you a better understanding of virtual production and in-camera VFX. In the next half an hour, I will take you through a super short history of Epic Games, the Unreal Engine, and a brief word about Fortnite, I can't not, and then a deeper dive into virtual production and real-time visual effects, and then we'll close with our case study on The Mandalorian. So in 1991, Tim Sweeney programmed his first video game called ZZT in the basement of his mom and dad's house. And when Tim shipped the game, he did it with shareware so it could be modified. With such humble beginnings, Tim wanted to give the impression that his operation was a bit bigger than it was, so he named the company Epic Mega Games. And in due course, this was modestly simplified to Epic Games. Tim always had a vision that in the near future, the interactivity of gaming, the accessibility of the internet, and the fidelity of high-end film and TV were going to come together to create a new type of virtual connected experience, what was sometimes referred to as the metaverse. And this really isn't science fiction. In fact, this metaverse concept is already happening to some extent, but we'll come back to that. Tim was smart, even back then as a young man. He soon realized that the program that he had written and built ZZT on could potentially be used by game developers to create their own games. So 21 years ago, this led to the creation of the Unreal Engine. And this was the first time that Epic were able to take the graphics program that was the foundation of a game and license it to other AAA developers to make their games. And if you're not a gamer, a AAA game, they're the most sophisticated games, visually stunning, and they have complex worlds. Games like the Unreal Tournament, Gears of War, and Infinity Blade have all been huge hits for Epic, and they've helped to battle test the engine. Millions of dollars in revenue have been made by developers using the Unreal Engine to produce their own titles. And it's very common that many of the top 10 games are built using UE4. So we can't talk about games without mentioning Fortnite, arguably one of the most successful games on the planet. There are now around about 350 million Fortnite players. It's become a cultural phenomena, going well beyond the traditional video game audience. Its scale is massive, it has seasonal frequent updates, and it's reactive to its audience. It has up to 11 million concurrent players at any one time. It was the first game to truly break the barriers between the gaming platforms. So you can play a game with your friends on any platform, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, PC, mobile. So how does this all relate to you guys? Well, Fortnite is arguably an early example of the metaverse. It's not just a game. As well as the Battle Royale game itself, Fortnite is a place to go and hang out with your friends. It is a three-dimensional play space where you can fire your friend out of a cannon, goof around in a shopping trolley, watch a concert, and buy some new threads. It's a place where cinematic events and gaming interactivity come together. Which is why, and this power is why the engine has a broad adoption across many industries. Architecture, construction, training, healthcare, from collaborative concept design right through to immersive interactive experiences. One important thing to mention at this point is the game engine, Unreal Engine, is free to download. So around about 7 years ago, Tim Sweeney, he's moved out of his parents' basement and is now our CEO, decided to change our business model and give the Unreal Engine away so many more people could explore the possibilities with it. But let's get back to film and visual effects. Since 2015, Kim Library and his special projects team have led the cinematic development of the engine. Kim and many of his team are from the film VFX world and are constantly striving to bring the engine up to the top level of film VFX. Prior to Epic, Kim was the VFX supervisor for the Matrix trilogy and has 2 technical Oscars for his work in innovating VFX technology. Special partnership projects each year have led to enormous strides in what the engine is capable of. Major advances have been made, such as the incorporation of ray tracing, allowing the engine to truly accurately mimic real-world lighting physics. And it's not just Kim and his team that push the envelope. Unreal's user base is also steadily growing, with over 10 million licenses are all helping to create amazing new advances using the engine. And you're watching now the latest Unreal Engine demo, the UE5, Unreal Engine 5, that launches early next year. It shows the incredible filmic aesthetics a game engine can achieve, but it is totally interactive. So why use Unreal Engine in film, television, and content creation? To understand how Unreal is used in the film industry, it's important to understand that ever since the beginning of visual effects, filmmakers have been longing to see their visual effects earlier in the process of production. Here you have some of our grandmasters, top directors using the best way they could to preview what they would later see when their visual effects were done. Peter Jackson on Lord of the Rings, Jim Cameron on Avatar, Steven Spielberg on Tintin, Alfonso Cuarón on Gravity. They're all pioneers on the road towards in-camera visual effects. Then, in March 2014, Facebook acquired Oculus, and soon after, filmmakers discovered VR and the Unreal Engine. Here I'd like to talk about Quien Ye Arena, a great example of what happened at the time. In 2016, Alejandro Inarritu had made a movie called Babel. It is the gut-wrenching story of a Mexican nanny trying to get back to a better life in the United States with the 2 children she's responsible for and getting lost in the Arizona desert. Alejandro was not satisfied with showing this story to an audience sitting comfortably in a movie theater. He wanted the audience to be immersed in the story. So he hired a group of people who had gone through this experience themselves, and working with ILMX Lab, he scanned them and motion captured them and put the story together to be experienced in VR. The experience was shown in museums and at various locations. Alejandro received a Special Achievement Oscar in 2018 for Kenya Arena. The last time one of these awards was given out was 1996 for Pixar's pioneering work in computer graphics for the original Toy Story. Other high-profile filmmakers did VR experiences. Robert Zemeckis with the Walk VR, Jon Favreau with Gnomes and Goblins, and many blockbusters also had companion pieces done in VR. And with this introduction to the Unreal Engine through VR, filmmakers started thinking about how they could use Unreal in production. And filmmakers started realizing that they could use it in production. And here's a great example of how they do.
I came on John Wick as a concept illustrator. I was providing 2D concept art to design the look and the feel of the film. And when we read about a 3-story building entirely made of glass, a number of problems come to mind. You have the reflections, you have the actual structural design of something like this, then you have the look to figure out lighting, etc. So I basically started with concept art. Using CAD designs from a set designer, I was able to bring them into Unreal Engine so that we could explore it in VR. It became this tool that allowed us to visualize what this set looked like and also helped us to create the lighting and the design of this thing months and months before any decisions had to be made on the physical set. It was such an abstract set that having this kind of spatial relationship and visualizing it from that point of view had tons of value. This set became a hub in the art department. The actors, the directors, the cinematographers went into the VR model so that they could basically visualize everything that was going to be built and seen in the film. I can't imagine them doing this set without VR. This set went through a number of different budgetary designs. I was able to create different set designs within VR, and now suddenly they can see what they can live with and what they can't live with at the hit of a button, and that allowed us to get the set approved sooner than we normally would. When you first walk onto the physical set, it's a surreal experience. It was amazingly accurate. VR has this kind of ability to cross the 2D concept art threshold and set design threshold and give you a real feeling of what it's going to be like to be there, which is just an incredible disruption in this industry. I also believe that the future is really bright for real time. Every single VFX artist that I know is asking about Unreal Engine, and the reason why is because there's the satisfaction of not hitting that render button, but just seeing it in real time. It's like heaven for a VFX artist.
Today, there are many use cases of Unreal Engine in production. Virtual sets, VR scouting, pre-visualization, obviously in-camera visual effects, digital humans, performance capture. And there are countless film and TV projects having used or using UE4 since 2016 in production, in all kinds of ways, big or small, that benefit the production. In the last few years, Epic Games has been investing in the development of many new features in the Unreal Engine for a new way of making movies called in-camera visual effects. Here's a movie that helps summarize what they are.
Let's cut and reset. No matter what the project is, the creatives always want to see the closest representation to the final product as early on in the creative process.
When I first walked on the set and the wall was up and we started to look through the camera, it really started to feel like I was just filming in this actual location.
We can
track a camera's position in space in real time and render its perspective so that we can compellingly convince a camera that something else is happening in front of it that really isn't there.
The thing to keep in mind is that the 3D world that you see on the wall is also a 3D scene that you can manipulate in Unreal Engine. So this gives the filmmakers full flexibility to make any change they want to the scene live.
So it's really exciting to see that we can, use the real-time lighting to not only change the environments virtually, but also have it affect the on-set lighting as well. This opens up kind of like a virtual playground to shoot in.
With a VR Scout, you have your department heads collaboratively going into the world together. They're able to make decisions that inform the creative process down the road. It gets them more grounded into the scene that they're shooting, into the story they're trying to tell.
Because you can interactively change the world, it brings all of those departments together because each one of them has a role in how this world is portrayed at some point along in the production.
The director and the DP, they're back, and they're now able to work directly with the teams in real time. It's a really exciting creative process to be part of.
Let's go into more detail. For this demonstration, we set up a large curved wall in the back with a flat wall on each side and an additional set of panels for the ceiling. Different LED manufacturers make different panels, but mostly they are square and they can be connected together either flat or at angles. One controller connects 4 panels. The 4 are half a meter square. This is a single sub panel removed. You can see that it's 88 times 88 pixels. Inside Unreal, we have reference to the walls. For this production, we have 2 side walls that are 20 by 14 panels, a front curved wall that is 36 by 14, and a ceiling that is 24 by 20. Altogether, total pixels is 1,232 vertically and 6,688 pixels horizontally between the side walls and the front wall. To effectively render this resolution, we use a feature called N-Display, which collects renders from multiple machines. One point to note, the LED wall is not just a display. In this use case, it's also a lighting instrument. It is providing reflections and lighting for the actor and is captured directly by the camera to extend the environment. Talking about the camera, we have the ability to increase the resolution of the camera view frustum to ensure maximum resolution for what the camera sees, while maintaining a sufficient lower resolution on the rest of the wall to maintain lighting and reflection capabilities, an equivalent to for VT'd rendering used in VR. Here's the machine setup for this production. While not all of these is required all of the time, each has a specific role. At the top, we have a capture system that provided tracking information on the exact camera location. Using the live link feature, we multicast the tracking information to all the other machines, including the set of render computers. To ensure that the rendering is synchronized, we use GenLock with a master clock, which also provides time codes to the camera. And the Unreal systems are tied together in a multi-user session. It allows collaboration between multiple artists in different capacities in and around the virtual world. Notice we have 2 separate VR Scouting workstations. When you enter this newer version of VR Scouting, it is not a one person at a time experience as it has been before, but now a multi-user scenario where multiple filmmakers can be in the virtual world together in a workflow that is closer to a real scouting session in the real world. We have various tools to let different departments navigate and interact with the scene. Notice that the VR users are making changes to the same scene being shown on the wall. So the DP can see how these changes look in camera in real time, and even see an avatar representation of the VR users scouting the virtual world and changing things. The 3D assets for this demo came from Quixel Megascans, which were available for all UE4 users. So here you see the Icelandic weathered lava spile that was being moved in VR. In addition to these features, we can use a web app on iPad to make changes on stage. Here's the UI that lets you select different sky elements and to position them in the scene. All programmable lighting is being driven by web-based, REST-based API that run off a iPad. The same UI lets you position a light shape on the wall outside the frustum, because the LED wall is also a lighting instrument. Here's the scene without and the scene with lighting the actor. As you see here, the set is dressed pretty well to match the color of the wall, but over on the left side, the seam is somewhat more visible. An additional edit can be made to the scene through color correction of the content on the wall. Here you see an operator adjusting the placement of the color correction region to be in the exact right location. And here you can see the effects of the correction to ease the set to wall transition. We can optionally place a green screen in the frustum area. This results in a very similar lighting and reflections on the actor and set, but allows the background to be changed later. For framing and composition, we can still do a live green screen extraction on the comp machine. In an ideal world, the LED panels would be HDR devices and should behave like real light. They're not quite there yet, but manufacturers are listening, and we expect to see better panels and control software for upcoming productions. And this slide shows that we have 7 frames of latency between the master clock and the render. Now let's talk about The Mandalorian. The first season of The Mandalorian has been really successful in many ways, thanks to Jon Favreau and the great team of creative people that he assembled around him. Epic Games were grateful to be part of that team. Through some on-set stills, let's have a look at what an in-camera visual effects stage looks like in real life. The Mandalorian Smart Stage is a video volume 21 feet tall and 75 feet in diameter. In this view from the first episode, we see the motion capture cameras at the junction between the video wall and the video ceiling. Here we see co-producer Craig Fraser working on the opening shot for episode 1 with Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian. Note again the motion capture cameras at the junction between the ceiling and the wall, and the shot through the camera in the picture-in-picture view. Another view of the opening shot as captured in camera. In these behind-the-scene pictures, see if you can find where the video wall ends and the real set begins. Sometimes the junction is off camera and obvious, but sometimes it's seamless. And here are multiple shots showing different times of the day, all possible at the flick of a switch. Here's a really interesting shot that shows the power of set design working seamlessly with the wall universe. Only the bottom part of the ship was built, the shiny part. The top part of the ship is displayed on the video ceiling, and part of the engine is on the back wall. When the camera moves, Unreal Engine keeps all the pieces together for a seamless effect. And this is the final shot. Here's a cockpit shot, a classic use of projection and video wall technology. In this scenario, now you can move the camera without the background looking like a flat projected screen. And a more complex setup for the lava river scene in the final episode. Note the actor representing the IG-11 droid. This will be replaced later in post. Here, while the camera is focusing on the actor Bill Burr, note the junction between the wall and the floor in the wide shot. And in this muddy shot, Baby Yoda is in a precarious position. It's hard to see where the real set ends and the wall begins. And finally, here's an image showing work on lighting around our hero and the star of the show, Baby Yoda. The wall in the background is standing by, maintaining the perfect time of day for as long as necessary. Finally, let's hear it from Jon Favreau himself.
part of what's been fun about collaborating on The Mandalorian with Lucasfilm and Disney is that we have been able to see through a few technical innovations and a few firsts that I think are going to have a lot of impact on the way television and movies are made moving forward. In partnership with ILM and Epic, we have put together a system whereby which we can have game engine, real-time render, and video wall technology coming together to create a backdrop for the big, beautiful world of Star Wars.
The volume is 21 feet tall, it's 75 feet in diameter, run by 7 machines, pumping the visuals onto the screen that's being created in pre-production and can be on the screen within 24 hours of being finaled.
It's incredibly impressive when you first walk out there because it completely surrounds your peripheral vision. And you really quickly forget that you're indoors and you're not out on some planet's surface. It feels like a real three-dimensional environment surrounding you because it is a three-dimensional environment.
You can allow your key creatives to all make decisions together so that the shots are captured entirely in camera, which allows for a better performance.
And what was so exciting about this is by bringing those people together, things started to click. And we started to realize, well, let's not just do green screen and interactive light. If we're going to design the whole set in game engine ahead of time, maybe we could have some in-camera effects.
Everything in the volume is designed to both light the actors and to be a background that we can directly photograph. So you end up with real-time final pixels in camera.
If you look at visual effects heavy films, you've got a film set and then it's going to go to post and it's going to get the world put in. Here we're considering all of that at the same time, and how do we create a background and foreground that live together on the volume harmoniously.
When we started to play with the idea of using Unreal Engine for virtual production, that's one of the things that Richard and John started to embrace, is that you've got this very dynamic world where you can have randomization of things and find the happy accident that gives you the perfect shot. Being able to see the actors point at things and see what they're looking at was pretty transformative. It gave everybody context, with the added benefit that if you want to move a mountain from there to there, you can do it instantly.
You could switch between the Iceland location to the desert location, all within the same day of shooting.
The ability to shoot a 10-hour dawn is extraordinary. To shoot any sequence where you say, oh, this world's not quite right, let's just move it a little bit. An extraordinary number of benefits and advantages for shooting in that environment. It's mind-blowing what that tool is.
What you see is really what you get. And that's something that really means a lot to filmmakers, especially those who have worked with a more traditional approach in the past.
Shots of character in a vehicle traveling through a complex environment. It's always very difficult to do believably on stage. LED screens are a wonderful solution to that problem, because what you're doing is you're taking this technique of image-based lighting that we've been using in computer graphics for years, and use it to light a subject.
And then we would do shoots where we would texture map real lit surfaces onto our game engine Geo, and so the camera could move anywhere. We would do interiors, like Werner Herzog's office. And then you started doing things like building sets into it, having half a spaceship with reflective surfaces. And so it became exciting because by the end of the season, it was like, let's start designing sets around what this could do well.
Just like the good old days.
With Star Wars, we're building on a rich legacy of innovation, and getting to partner with Jon Favreau to make his ambitious vision a reality, it's really a game changer for filmmaking.
And so, as stated in the 100th year celebratory edition of the American Cinematographers magazine and in The Mandalorian, this is the way. Hopefully this has begun to lift the veil on virtual production and in-camera VFX, Tim is an incredibly ethical being and doesn't believe that education should be charged for in any way. So Epic has lots and lots of great resources to help people pick up Unreal, switch to Unreal, or just have a better understanding of its potentials. Many of these are specifically designed for professionals in the film and TV industry. So check them out at unrealengine.com, online learning. And in the meantime, visit uevirtualproduction.com, where you can find more case studies and resources such as the Virtual Production Field Guide. And new content is added constantly. Thank you very much for your time, everyone, and stay safe. And I think we're going to do some questions now.
Thank you, Sally. That was super exciting. Lots of very interesting things. You know, India is obviously a great place for movie production and TV production, and not only for its amazing amount of output in local content, but also for many years, as I'm sure you've seen, also outsourcing content for the global market and production of content. So there's a lot of interest since we set up here in India from a lot of companies. Obviously, this interest has peaked also because of the challenges in the current environment to shoot, etc. But a lot of virtual production appears to everybody as just a big black box very often, and although people the VFX sector, etc., understand that it's a continuum from what they've been doing and just the next step. For a lot of directors, creative actors, etc., it seems a little bit like a big black box. And viewing what's been done in Hollywood tend to make it more even more inaccessible because of just the gigantic budgets, etc. So the question is, where do people start? Are there one point? Are there multiple points? Where can they start bringing this technology into their production?
I really think that there's production. It's not changing the art of production, but it is adding a layer of sort of sophisticated tech to it. And so I think that the starting point for anyone and everyone is just understanding, wherever you are on the scale of understanding. I think, spend some time seeing what's been done. There's lots of, we have lots and lots of resources, but there's also lots of case studies from, people around the world using virtual production, good and bad. It's not necessarily all good just because it's been done with a big LED screen. But I definitely spend some time, upskill, let's say, use time at home if you are at home at the moment, and learn more and more about what is being done, what is out there. We're very much on the crest of a wave at the moment, in that there are studios being set up. There's very much a race to get this technology out there, but people still need to take a beat and have a good understanding of how to use it in the best circumstances, and not just use it as a quick fix and therefore do great things with it. So I would say definitely spend some time learning about what other people are doing, learning about the tech, wherever you sit on the production, within the production team, learn how it can learn its potential for your department, and then start to sort of reach out to others that are using the technology. I find, I'm sure you do too, Quentin, that I find that our community, whether it's the production community or the real-time community or the two together, are incredibly collaborative. We love talking about it and helping and being hands-on, but also I find that there's very few people in the community that do not feel the same way. And I think that we should really broker that community feeling, and and learn more about others doing virtual production or any kind of real-time production in your environment, and reach out to them. I do a lot of just connecting people together so that they can share their experiences. So I would just say, education, education, education. And then there will be more and more studios in the next 6 to 12 to 18 months. There will be more and more studios available to really have some, real R&D and really get your hands, involved in a LED production. Oh, you're mute.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And you think it's important for people to start now? I mean, it seems like in a lot of cases, the tools are still experimental or require a big budget, and a lot of the production are very fast or engaged and don't have a lot of time for experiment. Do you feel it's important to start now, or do you feel some can afford to wait for a year or two till the technology matures and then adopt? What do you think is the best approach for?
I genuinely feel that it's imperative that you do begin your understanding now. And you're absolutely right in this is cutting edge technology. And so everything that's been done is ultimately R&D. So there's a huge learning curve. But I think that curve will flatten very, very quickly, and it will be adopted across production. It'll be the norm, I would say, within 18 months to 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And I think that you want to be part of that norm. You want it to be part of your skill set and your toolbox as whatever your role is in production. So I would say that now is definitely the time. If you wait until it has kind of, let's say, come of age, I think that you'll be at a disadvantage, because I think there will be others that are using it fluently and that are fully understanding of how it can impact their production, their timelines, their budgets. And now is a great time just to be doing the reading up on it all. You can download Unreal at home if you have a decent PC, and it's amazing the experimentation that you can do in a very, very small bubble of your own or of your production team, and just start to understand and start to feel a little bit more comfortable with it, because it can be, I have not come from a tech background at all, and I don't work on the box, and it can be intimidating. And the only way that you can feel comfortable, talking about it, offering it as a creative solution, working with it, is if that you feel educated in it. And so you can just sit and search out all of that resource and information that is out there.
Great. And traditionally, the industry in India has been, doing, compared to other places, a bit less of pre-production, previs, etc. A lot of time is spent on sets with very large crew on sets, and then they are typically fairly large also post-production team. Do you have a sense of how those new workflows and those new tools may affect this distribution of the work, and how it's going to affect the creative process between this typically light previs or pre-production, heavy production, and heavy post-production? What do you think? And obviously, we realize that this is early and there's a lot of effect we are not measuring yet. But is that going to change the way people should allocate their resources and budget and to improve overall qualities or creative output?
And absolutely. I think the best visualization for me has almost been it's almost like Inception, and and the timeline is folding back on itself. And that we're so used to some kind of concepting, and then pre-production, then production, and then post-production. But actually the post-production is now part of the whole process, especially the pre-production. And it means that the shooting part of your timeline now is actually much closer to the end. And it makes it all about preparation. It makes it all about sort of the creative process, which I think is people will find liberating. I think once you get over the initial shock of change, having all that time and flexibility and having the tools that are real-time tools to have creative iterations in moments, being able to share, being able to decide, being at a point where you've already planned something, you already know what it looks like, you know your universe, you know what your visual effects will be, and this is before you step foot on set. And then set can be all about what it should be about: performance and actors and cameras, and you don't have to worry too much about the universe or your post-production, because it's very much just been your production. It's been part of the journey. And I don't know anyone within a production process that doesn't sort of love being within an in-camera visual effects environment. Like, actors really enjoy the experience of being immersed within what feels like a live environment, definitely an interactive environment. Directors obviously love seeing it in camera. Art directors love to be able to see it come to life, in front of their actors, in front of their team, and they also love the fact that they can make quick changes, and it doesn't have to become a big problem on set. So yes, it basically, post-production will move into pre-production and production, and then once you've finished your shoot process, there could be minimal post-production at that point. There are still some productions that you would want to, and you would have some kind of post-process, but it just allows you to be much more flexible, and it allows you to plan creatively up front and to have a much more collaborative, lengthy, involved creative process, which I don't think anyone would not want, within their creative content.
Right. And by the way, everybody listening, I'm not sure how, from your point of view, you can ask questions, but we are happy to communicate some questions too. So if you have some, please enter your questions. In the meantime, I have many questions for Sallyann. So Sallyann, you mentioned also in the process, I think it was in the first description, one of the shoot was using Quixel. Can you tell us a little bit more about Quixel? We have a tradition in India of very big sets, very big, decors and all of those things. Can you tell us a little bit about what Quixel is about and how that will change also that aspect of filmmaking?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you about Quixel in layman's terms. Okay. This is how I see Quixel. Quixel is an amazing resource that is incorporated into the Unreal Engine. Quixel for me is a group of amazing young entrepreneurs who decided that there were not good enough quality assets within the making of 3D universes, and so they're a group of boys that went out and they scanned the world, and they go to far-flung places and they get the most amazing textured, detailed assets, and then they bring them back, and they are part of the Epic family now, and which means that all of those assets are available within the engine, which is it's a game changer, because it means that being able to create photo-real environments, whether they're fantastical or whether you want it to look like a street that everyone's familiar with, are there and very accessible in engine, and it doesn't become, creating the environments that would live on your LED screens doesn't become a huge chore, because every detail, every asset has to be either paid for or acquired or built from scratch. So they're an amazing resource.
Great. And tell me one thing. One of the thing also is a lot of the focus on your presentation was on the setups with those big LED screen, and the LED screen remain quite expensive a setup to raise, although I think the price are going down fairly fast, and hopefully it'll be available to everybody soon. But what part of virtual production can people adopt now early on, assuming they have no LED screen? I mean, people have done green screen here in India for quite a while and have been experimenting with a lot of part of virtual production, but you know, assuming you know, it'll take a bit more time to really have a lot of sets that are equipped with the right screen, the right setup. What are the early adoption points that people can bring on part of virtual production that can improve their production today and are easy to adopt and not as expensive?
Well, there's definitely so first and foremost, there's adopting within the pre-production process. As you say, in India, there's often big sets, big production teams, and I'm sure they are logistical dreams for any producers and executive producers or anyone involved, and there's a lot of complex action happening on set, and so incorporating some kind of previs into your production process that is real time, that is, you know, also a high aesthetic quality, allows you to be able to block out scenes. It allows you to you can do stunt previs so that you can check within a real environment that you are able to do all of the moves, whether it's with a stuntman, whether it's a dance move, whether it's a camera move. You can see how the set will look and feel, and also you can even plot and plan how you'll do set moves. You know, all of this can live within your three-dimensional environment, and you can plan out the production to, you know, to the smallest detail, which can be incredibly helpful. But obviously creatively, because you can see, you can comment, you don't have to have those last minute dashes when you're on set. You know, it can all be done moments before, even though it's a built set, even though it's a live action set, even though it's a real environment, even if it's on location, you can still create that within a computer, and then be able to sense check all of your shots, all of your angles, and also all of your production moves. So I think in pre-production, it can definitely be picked up and can be utilized, and you know, and maybe even just bite sizes of each of those examples. It doesn't have to be the only pre-production tool. You could just, you know, you could use it as an art director and just decide to do your set in Engine, so that you can then have a look at how it will feel in VR. And these are all things that you can do on your laptop at home, and then you can begin to incorporate some of the other team members in, so you can have like a multi-session, and then just, you know, little by little start to use real time within your process. So pre-production, it's great for planning, and then within, you know, within on set, motion capture is, you know, I don't really talk about motion capture at all in the presentation, and it's actually something that I'm going to add for my next round. I think that within sort of the virtual production world, motion capture, and whether that's used within a set for characters or it's used for an animated piece, I think that's an incredible tool for our industry to be able to utilize, and that's kind of a different discipline in its own right, but it's definitely something that I think people should be learning more about, how that can help animation and kind of character design, but also character animation. And then in the post process, you know, Unreal's been used as part of the, you know, a VFX pipeline, whether it was used on set or not, for many years now, you know, creating assets within Unreal rather than them be a much more linear VFX 3D component.
Right.
Has allowed a sort of a VFX pipeline to be, first of all, a universal asset, so it can be used beyond the screen, beyond the piece, whether that's whether that's AR or VR or marketing, or sort of used across lots of different mediums, or just allowing, once again, for there to be lots of different creative iterations, and also allow for there to be lots of creative feedback by it being a much more all singing, all dancing 3D element, rather than just seeing a sort of a 2D screen of the element.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. And then I don't really, you know, want to draft during too long on this, but I think we need to address the elephant in the room a little bit. And you know, basically, how does that allow remote collaboration for a movie? Because fundamentally, with the current situation, everything has been stopped. It's much harder to go on sets, etc. And a lot of people were curious on what can they really do using virtual production. Can it replace the entire process they are used to? Can it fix some part of it? How do people collaborate online without being able to be in their office like before or on the sets like before? And is that really replacing it? Is that not really replacing it? What's been your experience, and what have you seen in the last 8 months in terms of how people have leveraged it to continue to work and create?
Well, I think it definitely, I think first and foremost, because so much can be done as part of the pre-production process, it alleviates the absolute need for so many people to be on set. I think those people are still, it doesn't alleviate the need for those people, but I think that the collaboration can start earlier and it can go on for a longer period before you get to, whatever is needed to be captured on set. So I think in a world where we're trying not to have too many people together at any sort of stage in our working environment, it definitely speaks to that. And, in working remotely and collaboratively in a three-dimensional universe is effortless compared to being able to do that on set via Zoom. So it definitely opens up the fact that directors and art directors and even actors can all meet in within the project. If need be, in VR, they can see the stage, they can talk about direction. So it allows for virtual production. It allows for you to virtually still produce a commercial. It also allows for you to have less people there if need be. I think it is great to have your team on set with you, and I don't think that virtual production wants to ever eradicate that. Production is a collaborative process. It's great to finally get your team together, but these are weird and wonderful times, and it does allow for minimal people to physically come together, but maximum people to virtually come together.
Right. And so among those people, who are the people who need to learn game engine technology or parts of it, right? Because what frightens a lot of more creative people who are maybe a bit technology phobic in adopting those production is whether they're gonna have to interact and effortless. So who in a typical crew needs to basically get on board with this technology? Who are the critical people who need to learn, and who will benefit without having to learn too much?
I think everyone will benefit from learning, because I think that production, almost more than any other industry, is a creative, collaborative industry. Not a single one person makes a film. So I think everyone benefits. I am finding that there is a keenness for adoption from the creative visualizers. So the art department often, they've spent a lifetime doing sketches, and a lot of people have already moved into a three-dimensional world when you're creating sets and spaces. I think a three-dimensional presentation of that has been around for a very long time. So I think people that are working within sort of the art direction side of the business are kind of naturally sliding over. I think anyone that has a little bit of I've had recently, weirdly, I've had quite a few camera operators more and more interested. And I think once again, there's that crossover that, cameras are very tech focus now. Now that we're not in a film world, I think a camera operator has become a more and more technologically aware person. And so camera operators, DOPs, I think that they are interested. I think I think it is something that they will want to be more and more immersed with, because obviously they'll want to understand how, if you're working within an LED screen environment, how that affects light and how powerful it can be, but also maybe how it may change, what would be their normal approach. And I think that's going to have to be a sort of a gentle learning curve while the technology develops in its own right. I feel like I'm finding that it's very varied. Anyone that already has half a foot in some kind of technological version of their role on set is more likely to pick up the engine and have a play. But I think that across the board, people have interest, great interest. I think directors that I've spoken to, there's no single director that I've spoken to that I believe will learn how to use the Unreal Engine, and they don't need to.
Right.
What's really, really important is that they understand its possibilities, because ultimately they're being given a whole new toolbox of movie magic. And I think it's important. And when they come and we chat and they do begin to sort of, open up that box, their eyes are ablaze. They're so excited by what can be done. And so even if there is a tiny little bit of resistance to begin with, because they're just not tech focused people, by the end of our initial chats, there's a lot of excitement in the room. So I can do this and I can do this, and what would you do in this situation? So I think that it's just about people being open to the conversation, and then how deeply you go into the tech is kind of up to you and how much your role demands.
Great. Maybe a last little question. We've talked a lot about virtual production in the film environment, etc. Does any of this apply or can be ported, or will it have a similar type of impact on the animation business? We have a big animation and animation outsourcing tradition in India. And so, are the animation pipeline, who as we know them for the last 15 years, are they likely to be affected by this as well?
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes. And the long answer is very long and very technical and totally above my my pay scale and understanding. But yeah, absolutely. We at the moment we're working with lots of different companies that are doing real-time animated films. And it changes the pipeline slightly, but I'm finding that it's very much a choice. I've been speaking with a couple of the really big animation studios here in London, and the normal journey is that they're interested to know more. There's normally a couple of people within the environment that have dabbled, because when animation does very quickly become now that it is all within a computer, people are already very aware of real time. So there's normally a couple of people within the company that are interested and understand, and then you start to do bite-sized chunks, whether it's just a small piece or some R&D or some demos, and then very, very quickly everyone sees how powerful it is, how easy it is to do creative iterations, how quickly everything renders, obviously, and the adoption becomes broad. And so from a company deciding to do one real-time film and everything else is more traditional animation, in the last 8 months I've seen that company go from one film, almost like an experimental piece, to 90% of their work now being done in real time. But because people will come to them with creative briefs and they'll say, this is the way that we're going to be able to answer that brief.
Right.
Clients buy into that creative approach. So
it changed the collaboration and breaks the silos that have been traditional linear production silos type of thing. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Sallyann. Unfortunately, there must be a small problem with the platform. We haven't had any questions, so I hope the questions I had were answered some of the questions the audience might have had. And, you know, thank you very, very much for your time and this very enlightening presentation. And we hope to see you when flights start again. We hope to see you in India very soon.
I'd love that. I can't wait. Love India. It's one of my favorite places.
We'll take you around to visit all the great studios here and everything. Thank you very much, Sallyann. Thank you, CII, for inviting us and having this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our panelists. It was indeed a very interesting and exciting session. Thank you, Quentin, for moderating. Thank you, Sallyann, Houghton, for spending time and being with us and sharing your thoughts. We will now begin our next session. Thank you so much for joining.